Hey everyone, how's it going? And in this video, let's take a look at Fender Studio Pro, which is the new version of Studio One, and take a look what it sounds like with some high gain guitar tones and some bass tones. So if you haven't heard the news yet, Studio One has been rebranded as Fender Studio Pro. So Fender acquired PreSonus a few years back and they've been doing some adjustments, but now it's official that Studio One is now a Fender product. Now with this new name and version, there's been a few updates, but what really caught my eye was the new amp suites that they included, which is the Mustang and Rumble, and how you can use these for guitars and bass tones. So let's take a listen what this sounds like within a full mix, and then we'll jump in and see how we can dive in some tones. I'm using my guitars tuned to F sharp 1 and then the bass is in F sharp 0. So take a listen here. Okay, so that's what it sounds like in a full mix. Now let's jump in and see what those guitar tones sound like. Okay, so this is what my raw DI sounds like before I start adding any of the amp processing. Now let's add in an instance of the Mustang amp suite. This loads up the default patch, but what I want to do is click on this compressor and remove it. So I can click on it and just remove it, and then a reverb on the end and remove that. So we've just got the amp. So if I click on the amp, I can scroll through here, just clicking on replace, and see all the amp models that are available. And I want to go for a 5150 amp model. So if you scroll all the way to the end, you've got this option here, which is the Metal 2000. And then also I want to change the cab. So if I click over here, I can scroll through, but also if I play back, listen here, I can take a listen to the cabs while I'm playing back. I'm going to go for this 4x12 Soldano sort of cab over here. So I'll click confirm, and I want to tweak some of the amp settings. So I'm going to go in over here. Just going to pull back on the treble, pull this mid down, scoop it a bit, as well as the bass. And jump across over here and change that master. Now the guitar's a bit noisy, so I'm going to add a noise gate just in front. So what works pretty well is this metal gate. Just cleaning that up. And then what I want to do is just shape the sound a bit after the amp. So I'm going to add in a parametric EQ over here. So as you can see, there's quite a selection of effects that you can use. Increasing the bass a bit, pulling back on the mids. Just tweaking this mid Q, adding a bit more treble. And just to interject here, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me and the channel. Okay, let's jump back in. Now what I've done is I've dual tracked two guitars, panned them hard left and hard right, and I've bussed them to a folder and I'm adding some extra processing. So I've got the two guitars over here. Then what I've done is I've added an EQ where I've cut out some of the lows and then just got rid of some resonant frequencies at 4K, 2K, and 1K. And then I've also added in some compression just to even out the dynamics. So before and after. Now I've also added in some lead sounds with some extra processing. Over here I've got this part. If you just click over here, you can see I'm using the Metal 2000, the parametric EQ. Then I've added in a ping pong delay with a small mod hall reverb. And then just an EQ just to shape the frequencies, just cut out some of the lows there and pushed up some of the highs. And it sounds like this. And on this lead track over here, I've added the same processing as the effects from the track before. What I've just added is a chorus on the end of the chain. Okay, so that's the guitar tones using the Mustang native amp suite. Now let's take a look at some bass tones with the Rumble bass suite. And I'm using this bass tuned down to F#0. So for the bass, I'm using the splitter tool in Studio Pro. So if you just look at this bass over here, I'm going to show you what I did. So let's just say I add an EQ. So we've got an EQ to the chain, and you click over here, and you can create a split chain by taking the splitter, placing it over here, and I'm going to be doing a frequency split. So when you split this over here, you've got two chains, and this determines where that split's going to be depending on EQ range. Now let me jump to the bass and show you the tone that I built up. So over here is the bass. I'm just going to solo it, open up the splitter, and you can see you've got two chains over here. I've done these splits at 300 Hertz. And what I want to do is just mute chain 2 and just play back chain 1, but bypass these effects over here. And then I've added in an EQ. And with this EQ, you can see that I'm cutting out any low frequencies below 30 Hertz, and then just doing a slight boost over here at 80 Hertz. Then I'm adding an instance of Rumble Native. I'm using the Studio Preamp, just dialing in these settings over here. And then if I just close this and go back to the splitter, I'm adding in a compressor afterwards just to even out the dynamics. Now let me jump across to chain 2 over here. So I'm just going to mute chain 1, play back chain 2, and I've dropped the level, but I'll come back to that in a sec. So I'm going to play this back over here and open this instance of Rumble Native. So this is using an instance of the Bassman 300 Pro, and as you can see, we've added in some gain over here. And then this is going into an 8x10 Pro cabinet. Now what's really cool about this is that you can blend the two bass signals together. So blending the clean bass signal with a saturated distorted bass. So over here, I'm going to unmute this. I'm going to take channel 2, bring it all the way down. Now I'm going to play back and then bring up the saturated sound to blend them together. Now let's hear what it sounds like with the drums. Bring in the guitars. Mute the bass. And bring the bass back in. So that's what the new guitar and bass amp plugins sound like in Fender Studio Pro. As you heard, you can build up some high gain tones and some blended saturated bass tones that you can use in your metal productions. Now with Fender Studio Pro, I know there's been a bit of bugs with this new release that they need to sort out, but with regards to the amp plugins, it's really nice to have a new upgraded amp and bass plugin suite that we can use with our metal productions. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to click on the notification bell to be notified of future videos. I'll catch you in the next one.